I got back home from the Shaw Classic 5 minutes ago, and Fabian is bothering the hell out of me to go event by event. So here we go. Well, first of all, huge honor to be a part of Brian's last show. That was really cool. The crowd was electric. The expo was phenomenal. We had support there that we did not anticipate at all. Sold out of about 95% of what we brought. People were buying sizes that didn't even fit them. If you weren't able to go there, go ahead, link in the description for the merchandise. But let's get on to the events themselves. So we started on Saturday and we went log press. Now I drew third overall for log press, meaning that I was behind only Evan Singleton and Ivars. I knew Evan would probably put up a pretty good mark, but there was a lot of guys in contention after me. And I chatted with Laws and just said, I'm going to put it out all on the line and go straight to that 200 log and see what we can do. And really, I don't think a 200 log has ever felt easier for me. I ended up doubling it. I was very, very close to a triple. And I think if I was technically perfect, I would have got it, but I just missed it out in front of me a little bit. But 2 on the log press is what won last year. So I was really happy with that. I ended up getting beaten that one by Trey and by Bobby, who did 2, but both faster than me. So hats off to those performances. Brian ended up coming just behind me, which was a bit of a kicker because I did 2 on the 200. He did 2 on the 185, and no one else singled the 100 or singled the 200 or did more reps than the 185, meaning that I could have done 1 rep on the 200. I would have been just the same for it. But that's sort of the con of drawing an early number. That put me in the second to last pairing in arm over arm. This is the event I was most nervous about. I'm not particularly known for having a great grip. It's not horrible, but it's not something that I would consider a banker in any way. And last year in this arm over arm, I believe I came 9th out of 16, so nothing overly impressive. I was with Brian in this one, which is super cool. Loaded the sandbags into the wheelbarrow, went to the arm over arm. I wasn't concerned about the first half. That went really well, basically as anticipated. And Max had the best time here with 1 minute and 1 second. He absolutely fired through it, and his arm over arm is so good because his hands are so strong. He can literally just, like a normal arm over arm almost, he just absolutely mogs it. But I got to the arm over arm, and from the first pull, I knew things were going to go pretty well. I had quite a good grip on it, and my grip strength and my arm over arm technique has just improved a lot. Fired through, and I was very efficient in wrapping my arm, which makes me look forward to Rogue if the Rogue coaster is back. Now, I finished this in 1 minute and 2 seconds. I was ecstatic. To me, this is my best performance of the weekend and where I think I made up the most points and where I thought I was going to be. So Max had won that event. I came second. Evan put in a strong performance. Brian put in a strong performance. Tom put in a strong performance. So everyone you would expect to do really well in that event. Leg press, I want to forget about this one. This is such a suffer. Last year, I think 7 reps won it, 7 or 8 reps. And this year we had, I think 5 or 6 guys in double digits. And the thing that people don't understand is when you put in a max effort in strongman, usually the max effort is like you're close to max, but you lose your technique, and that's what stops you, i.e. the log press. I didn't push to maximum strength on that. It was just falling in front of me, and that's all I could do. On the leg press, where there's no technique, you're working hard. So I got 13 reps. Brian won the event with 14, and I tied with Trey on 13. Honorable mention to Evan, who also got 14, but pumped the crowd up at 12, meaning that his attempt was over. Yeah, small highlight from the weekend. Now, that meant that going into Atlas Stones, I was in the lead by a couple of points, I think 1.5 points over Brian, and Brian and I went on stones together to finish day 1. So that was awesome. I mean, Brian's last stone run ever, and I get to do it with him. I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. But I had my trusty arm sleeves on. Fun fact, Brian hand cut those for me last year, and I just haven't had the chance to train with Taki to get used to them. But this prep I did, I used those, and it was absolutely perfect. I actually felt as though I could have done another heavier stone at about the same speed. So I'm really confident in stones moving forward, using that system, using the Dave Osland Elite Taki over the Cerberus Taki has been a massive step up for me. So a little bit of advice for all of you amateur guys out there. So I did really well, and I think I lost to Brian by less than half a second on this one. It was so close. Such a fun run to do. The challenge here is I popped my left hamstring when I was picking the last stone. Now, it didn't come off the bone. I really don't know what happened, but it's still tender and sore to the point where I woke up on day 2, I actually couldn't even get down into a deadlift position. I was quite concerned about that with max deadlift being the first event of day 2. Now, with that hamstring issue, I was looking at the points. I was half a point ahead of Brian at this stage. We had max deadlift, we had bag over bar, and we had power stairs, like 3 very hamstring heavy movements. And so I was actually really, really concerned going into day 2. But you sort of got to lay it out there. And I knew that I needed to pick up points on Brian in the max deadlift to be able to stay ahead of him. And I didn't. I tied for second. I got 1,100 pounds off the ground, just like I did last year, but the strength just wasn't there. And in the end, maybe with a healthy hamstring, I could have done it. But a huge part of this sport is your body holding together for the whole competition. So in no way is it an excuse, because the guys who hold together deserve the credit for being held together at the whole competition. So there's a big backlog of people who tied on 1,050 on the Hummer tire. And Tom absolutely smashed 1,100, which blew my mind. And Tom, after zeroing the log press, actually destroyed the rest of the competition, won 4 of the next 7 events, did really, really well. I think fair to say Tom is back in true Tom form. We went from there to the chest press. I had higher hopes for this one. After I finished, I had got 7 reps, which tied me for second at the time with only Brian to go. And I walked off and immediately said that's not good enough. I knew that Brian would do more. So Brian ended up with 9, Tom Evans with 8, and we had a few of us tied on 7. This was massive for Brian. He picked up a few points on me. And at this stage, I think I was 3 points behind Brian, going into bag over bar and finger into power stairs. And if you know anything about him, and the reason, by the way, that I'm talking so much about him is because as the show went on, him and I sort of pulled away from the pack a little bit, and it turned into a 2-man race, which is funny because I expected the 2-man race to be me and Tom, but it turned out to be me and Brian. I think if Tom had hit that the log press, it would have been an incredible 3-way battle for first spot. But then we went to bag over bar, and this actually caused me the most issues with my hamstring. I just wasn't able to reach the bag through my legs. It messed up my timing. I actually executed really, really well. Like in terms of the trajectory of the bags and doing what I was capable of, I think I probably could have got the first 65, but after I missed it the first time, the hamstring was grabbing on me. I couldn't get the same rhythm. I just couldn't do what I was doing in training. Now, part of that's probably that it's the 7th event out of 8. Obviously, I still need to go improve that event, but I ended up 6th in this event, and I was a bit dejected, to be honest. After this, I knew that Tom wasn't going to catch me to come in second. I knew that me gaining 6 points on Brian to come in first was extremely unlikely. But you know, you sort of got to rally. And at this stage, the sympathetic fatigue in this comp is just miles different to every other show. This is the only show where I get that feeling of like, I just want to go have a nap. I just want to go home. I'm exhausted. And that's the sympathetic fatigue that we're all feeling. Like, it's not like my muscles are tired and I need to lie down and I can't stand up and I can't work hard anymore. It's literally like, I need to go to bed. Like my eyelids are drooping and I'm about to go out to do an event. So that took us finger into power stairs. Now, I'm actually extremely proud of this one for a couple of reasons, really. One, I wasn't all that into it because I basically had accepted fate, which is not ideal. You should sort of have that killer instinct to the end. But even with that sort of attitude to start with, once the whistle goes, I still have it. I still had it and fired through the Fingals finger. I think that was a massive improvement for me on the Fingals finger. The smoothness of those, and they were super under control. I felt like I could have gone much, much heavier, which to be fair, they were relatively light, but they felt much better than they did at Worlds. We went to the power stairs, 550, 600, heavy events. Now, to backtrack a bit, I've got cuts, some significant cuts on 5 of my fingers at the moment. Partially from a rope climb that I did on Wednesday before the comp, which wasn't the smartest thing in the world. I burnt my hands going down the rope. And partially just from the wheelbarrow and the arm over arm and the beating that our hands take. So I was a bit worried about the power stairs and how they would go, but fired through the 550, that was no problem. The 600, I got the first 2 steps very quickly, fumbled a little bit on the third, and through the first two, I think it's fair to say that my pace was ahead of Tom's, and I could have won the event. I knew that I would have to win the event to catch Brian. After I fumbled on going on to the third stair, I pushed the implement on so the stair counted. At this stage, I knew that I had secured second, and I knew that Brian was first. And there was just a much higher return for me at this stage in soaking in the moment of being able to do the last event ever with Brian. And going up to the top of the stairs and cheering him on, that meant more to me than a couple more points ever could. So that was really, really cool to watch. Amazing to feel that environment. And that's a piece of strongman history that I'm forever going to be a part of. And really throughout the weekend, I was reflecting on it. Throughout the weekend, Brian and I went head to head on stones, his last stone run, on that event, and on the arm over arm. Like I was with Brian his last show in 3 of 8 events, going head to head with him, which is just such a privilege. I think for someone who's come up in the sport so quickly, I've had to gain the not respect, because I respected them from the get-go, but the reverence for how much they've done in the sport backwards. I didn't have the huge history of looking up to them for a long time, but it's crazy to think that I was able to share those moments. That was really, really cool for me. I ended up coming in second by 7 points. I think Tom was 8 points behind me. And then I don't even remember who came in fourth. Evan came in fourth. Evan came in fourth, yeah. I think a few points behind Tom after the power stairs performance, yeah. So that was the Shaw Classic. So I came second, which is one improvement from last year. This is the first time I've ever had a little injury while competing. Super proud with how I pushed through on that second day to be able to stay in contention the whole time. And I think as any competitor would, you look back at what you did, you have some regrets, and there you just play the what if game. And it'll take a couple of days to move past that, but I always go like, what if I didn't fumble the power stairs and I could have got a handful more points? What if I got one more rep on chest press? What if I got the 1,100 pound deadlift? And I think there's a lot of areas that if I improve a little bit, I'll be much, much better moving forward. But podium streak is at 11. I'm 11 for 12 podiuming in professional competition, and I am immensely proud of that. All we can do is put ourselves in shape, turn up in shape, in a position where you could win, and then you got to go out and do your thing. And I really didn't put a foot wrong for a lot of the competition. It's just how things shook out in the end. So let me know, how did you enjoy the Shaw Classic? Where do you think Shaw Classic ranks and Strongest Man on Earth ranks amongst the other big shows of the year? One really cool thing is the social media traction from Shaw was basically on par with Worlds. So you guys are obviously interested in it. It's obviously taking off. And I'm very excited to be a part of it moving forward for a long time. So thanks everyone for watching. Lift heavy, be kind, and we will catch you next time.